Good afternoon, Ngozi Talk Shows family. It's Nomsa here at Ngozi Talk Shows. Find your own voice, late from within. With me today, I'm with Amanda Murray. How are you, Amanda?
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. I'm really glad to be here this morning. It's bright and early here, so, and I know it's like lunchtime at your where you are, but it's nice and early here in Canada. So I'm happy to be here this morning and excited about our topic.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Amanda. So, our topic is mindfulness techniques for kids and family. Engage your minds. Um, engage your young minds. So, join us as we share practical tips and techniques that can easily help you to incorporate into your daily routine, promoting realization and reducing stress in both kids, parents. Um, so Amanda, you chose this topic. What was in your mind when you chose this topic?
Well, I'm a teacher, so this is one of the like big focuses of all of my work, which is how to empower kids to believe in themselves and to really focus on building their confidence is really one of the things that I find with teaching elementary school is like, how do we build their self-confidence so that they can then attend and try hard things and be okay with like failing forward. And so mindfulness techniques are definitely something that, especially because at that age, they're still at times where like things can feel really, really difficult for them. And we don't always have the like skills that we have as adults to like control our tempers and stuff. And so having some mindfulness techniques can be really important for kids.
Hold on, Amanda. I'm just trying to give Grant the password.
Okay.
Yes, he's trying to join, but he's saying he hasn't got password. So I have sent him the password.
Okay. But yeah, so just really because my focus is on kids so much, and that is why I chose this topic. And I think that like really kids are our future. And so we often sometimes we get so caught up in our adult lives that we forget about like what it is that might be going on in our kids' minds, and then how to build those tools so that when they are adults, they're not looking back on their whole childhood as like their childhood trauma, right? Like so many of us are that are on a mindfulness journey or a healing journey are learning about as adults, and they can at least have tools because everybody suffers from some sort of trauma in their lives, and that at least if we have some mindfulness tools, that maybe it won't be as difficult to get over.
I like it, Amanda, when you say sometimes we forget that our younger children, they do need help with their mindfulness. And it is very, very important to help them to cultivate that awareness and presence in everyday life, help their minds to develop emotionally resilience and focus. It's very, very important for us to help them, even like doing exercises in every day. But it's good that the schools, you do help Amanda schools, do you? Because I've seen my daughter, I don't know whether she sees me at home. I've seen my daughter, she's good like going out running and stuff, like going for walk. If they're not going out for walk, they're doing things, something like to keep them busy.
Yeah, we are always doing, well, it depends on the teacher, right? It so often depends on the teacher on whether they have those skills or not. And sometimes you have to educate the adults first in order for them to understand the value of mindfulness tools. And if adults don't have those tools, then it's not trickling down to the children either. And so even like in the last, no, 16 year or 18 years that I've been a teacher, there definitely I've seen a huge increase in mindfulness practices in the schools where it's now okay to say like, oh, I practice some yoga. Whereas before that would have been like not a thing that you ever heard. And even just yoga being more prevalent in Western society anyways, that and it's more normalized, but it's more focused on the physical aspects still, but we are seeing the more spiritual aspects of it coming into Western culture, and people are getting more curious about it as well. And those techniques are often tied into like a history of mindfulness things. And I've talked before on how in the book Think Like a Monk, Jay Shetty talks about how one of the first things they teach in monk school is for the children is how to breathe. They don't teach the ABCs, they don't teach how to count or how to add. They teach you how to control your breath. And that's because your breath is with you for your entire life. And they just always like look back at that as like that's so profound in so many ways. And that's not anything that we focus on in education here. And why is that? And then why do we have so many people struggling with mental health issues? Well, it's because we're not looking at people through a whole body sense or a holistic approach. We look at things as here's a band-aid solution to that. Oh, your kid has ADHD, let's give them Ritalin. Oh, your kid is struggling with anxiety, here's an anti-anxiety medication. Instead of being like, okay, holistically, what is it that's causing the kid to have these feelings or to be hyperactive? Because lots of the times, if you look at the super hyperactive kid, you can channel some of that through exercise. Same with anxiety. There's research out there that states that if exercise is actually better than antidepressants on dealing with anxiety and depression. And if you have an exercise routine that is consistent, it actually can have better results on dealing with your anxiety and depression than pharmaceuticals do. Not that that works for everyone, and that if somebody is struggling with anxiety or depression, they should still go talk to their doctor. But there's research out there that's showing that we are not looking at people holistically. And when we don't look at the holistic person and we try to just choose these band-aid solutions, that they're really not solving the problem, and they're just causing people to be addicted to pharmaceuticals for their entire lives. And so when you look at mindfulness for children, I know like parents are starting to really be like, well, hey, what are my other options? When I did research a number of years ago on ADHD in kids and were there holistic ways to approach it, all of the research that I looked at, it really depended on who was funding the research to what the results of the study were. And whenever I look at scientific studies, I always look at who's funding the research, because if you look at who's funding the research, that's really going to like sway how the results of the study come out. And so unless you can make sure that the research is nonpartisan, then you can't really believe what the results show. Because when I was doing research on ADHD, when I was still in university to become a teacher, that's something that I found out was that I could find research on both sides. And so I've always approached ADHD as an individual issue where we need to look at the kid holistically and find out what works best for that specific family, because there's not a one size fits all that's going to work for every single kid and every single family. And it might be things like diet, exercise, mindfulness practice is a really good sleep routine that helps with ADHD, and they don't need any medication at all. But then other kids find that it actually helps even when they do implement all of those things. So it really is like a more individualistic approach, and we can't just have like a blanket, this works for all people or all kids. And that's where we really need to look at different mindfulness practices, because when we look at people holistically and as an individual, we're not like putting them in this box, right? We're trying to look at them holistically as much as we can, so that we can truly help and make them feel seen, valued, and heard. Hi, Grant.
Hello, folks. Hello, folks. It's just a great subject, isn't it? Really is. Techniques for kids and families to engage in young minds, all through the art of mindfulness, and that is so for me. It's so important because having recently during this week going to some very very close family and friends' funerals, it makes you look at the longevity. You see people you haven't seen for a long time, including one of my friend's girlfriends. I've not seen her since 1989. Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. And of course, seems just the same as always did. It's always like nothing's happened, which makes you think because she brought her daughter with her. And you're looking at young minds. You know, how can you depart that knowledge? How can you depart that understanding, that experience to younger minds? Well, partly you can't, partly you can. But through mindfulness and getting mindfulness into younger people, goodness, you know, if I could approach things the way I do now when I was 16,
mm,
don't know, maybe I'd have been a boring 16-year-old, but yeah, you've got to be a little bit young, I suppose, anyway. But you know, it could have made life an awful lot easier, could have really got through some things a lot quicker had you approached mindfulness. It's a wonderful thing to share with people. And I think I'm really pleased you're working on this subject this week. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Nomsa?
no, so you're muted. Still
And
muted.
what was happening with your link, Grant?
It wasn't valid, simple as that.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know why, if it's changed in the last week, but it wasn't valid. Yeah. And then it was asking for a password for the first time ever. So, and the one which I had was not valid. So, yeah, needed. There must be an update somewhere.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I think mindfulness is really important, like you and Amanda are saying. It's very, very important to encourage our kids to notice like mindful walk, like walk together, teach them to can go for walks and encourage them when you're working with them to notice the sights and sounds and smell around them, and also help them to do exercises every day. When they do exercises every day, it gives them that sense of presence and appreciation of the world around them. Because this world is it's very fast. It's a very fast-paced world. Things are like moving really, really fast, and social media is helping our children to grow up, be 18 even when they are like 9 or 10. So it's a very, very fast world. So it's really nice. I do lots of working with my children. Like, I think sometimes they get fed up hanging out with me. My oldest one, she does her own thing, but I try when they allow me to be around them, I try to do whatever I can to be there. You haven't got kids, Grant, have you?
Not yet.
Are you sure you've never gave any kids to somebody?
I'll make a
If you,
couple of phone calls. I'll just find out. I'll just confirm.
you got to check with your exes if they've got a kid. Amanda, what do you do with Ellie to help her to actually mindfulness? Does she allow you now that she's a little bit older?
Yeah, we've always like practiced it because I got divorced really when she was 2, and that's really when I started like diving more deeply into these topics. And so things like even just like control, like I talked about already, like controlling your breath, like breathe in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, breathe out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or holding your hand up and breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. And it just is something that can like help you refocus when your mind starts to like spiral down and like dark hole, which I always say, I'm like, I can even see it in her face. I'm like, you're spiraling. I'm like, stop that. But it is like even just like being able to like tune in and notice those things. And one of the things that I did with with a group of students, and like 2 years ago, I think I had this group of students, and they were very, very hyperactive and very, very a chatty group of like 29 grade 5s. And it was a beautiful spring day, and I got them to sit outside and said, we're just going to be silent without talking outside for like 1 minute, and I'm going to time it. And I want you to just notice how you feel in your body. Notice how what you notice around you that you might not have noticed with you weren't being silent. And we'll talk about it in a few minutes. And so we were silent for the like 1 minute, and I thought there was one specific girl in my class who I didn't think would be able to do the 1 minute of not talking, because it was like always like you could not shut this kid up. She was constantly like always had to be saying something, always babbling. And it was so interesting, and because she was like, that was really hard, don't make us ever do that again. Like, that was really hard for me. And I was like, oh, this is so interesting. Like, her internal brain always has to be talking to like get over whatever anxiety is going on inside her body and inside her head. Whereas there was other kids who were like, that was awesome. That was so awesome to just like be silent for a minute and just like really absorb laying in the sun and not have to like think about anything and just relax here. It was so lovely. And then that other like polar opposite was like, that was the worst thing ever. Don't make me do that again. And then we talked about it, and I see like some strategies of mindfulness work really well for some kids and not so well for others. I would encourage that kid who like couldn't be quiet ever and really struggled with that silence for 1 minute to try to practice it a little bit more, so that she could eventually calm her mind into being able to like relax for 1 minute without it feeling super, super uncomfortable. And she just felt so uncomfortable with that silence, and to really explore why she felt so uncomfortable with that silence. And if you're an adult and you're like, oh, that's me, that's totally me, explore that question. What is it that's making you feel so uncomfortable with silence? What about you, Grant? Have you ever had an experience like that with any of the people that you work with, where they have like, there's like one extreme or the other, where people are like, oh, that was so wonderful, that mindfulness technique. And then the other person's like, that was the worst. Don't make me do that again. Like, what do you see ranges like that in the people that you work with?
Slightly different experience. I suppose it might be, and I'm glad you raised that question, really, because it makes me think that maybe it's a product of good marketing that the people that we work with are generally, and I emphasize the word generally, into that. But I indicate some people struggle with it. They'll be doing like mindfulness or hypnotherapy, and sometimes they'll open their eyes and start talking and close your eyes. It's not essential. You could be hypnotized with your eyes wide open. We are every day, we're hypnotized with our eyes wide open. But for mindfulness, I like to get them to close and be quiet. And some people find it an incredible challenge. I did at first. I liked it, but found it a challenge. It's certainly like a muscle. You can expand it. That's why I say to people, aim for 30 seconds, first of all, with no thoughts in your mind. And then, but a good friend of mine, a very good friend who's no longer with us, he was asking about, various techniques. And I asked him, he said, tried it, don't work. His mind was too busy, he couldn't quiet it down. So it's not that he didn't like it, he couldn't get on with it. I feel a lot of it is down to attitude, if I'm honest. A lot of it is down to attitude of accepting and surrendering to things like that. But my question would be is, why did they not like it? Was it that they found it difficult, or did some things come up that they really rather not look at? What was it? Why did they not like it?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's hard to go deep with like grade five sometimes when you have a 29
Yeah.
in that exact moment. But I do
Just
have a
like,
friend.
nah.
Yeah. I do have a friend with like a similar experience. Was when we go to yoga together, like it has to be like a flow class or like a pretty like difficult class, or she won't go. She doesn't like any of the like slow moving classes,
Yeah.
anything on meditation. And I think it's because her brain is just so busy all the time that if she has to slow down and really be present with that and do like a yoga nidra or something like that, it's like completely uncomfortable for her. And I know for myself, even like sitting in meditation is really hard for me. Like I can't sit still for very long at all. But then I learned like oh, you could do a candlelight meditation, or you could do a guided meditation, or you could do a walking meditation. And when I started to learn about those things, I was like, oh, I can do these things. Meditation doesn't have to be what you think it is, where it's just you're sitting in silence and like oming or like chanting or focusing on your breath. It can be, but it doesn't have to be completely that. You can actually do a walking meditation. I love the candlelight meditations where you sit in silence and just like focus your attention on the flame of the candle. That's one that I can really do, because if it's just like be silent, I'm not so good at that, and I know that, and I realize that, and I'm conscious of it. And so I know when I do think like, oh, I need to get back into meditating more often, I can also be like, I can also just do a meditative walk where I calm my mind and I focus on everything around me, and I slow down and I focus on my breath, and I look at the sky, and I look at the sunlight, and I look at what's around me, and I notice the sounds that my footsteps make as I walk. And I am truly like inside my body. You can slow down, and that can be meditative. It can be meditative even like at the gym or when you're cooking or whatever, when you are conscious and aware that that is what you're trying to do, right? So when I learned that, I was more like keen on meditation because sitting in silence is also like really hard for me. I don't know about you, Grant, or if you meditate on a regular basis, but that's something that is a mindfulness technique for sure, and it works really great for some people. But I know a lot of people who they're like, I just can't do it. Like sitting still and meditating is something that you have to work up to, but it also can be done in different ways, which opened the doors for me.
It can be, and I make it part of my routine to meditate, not for long, every day. You know, I like journaling, meditation, and gratefulness. It really helps you over some hard time. It's so simple to do, and it really can help make life a lot better. I really wish that everyone did it. I say everyone, you know, nearly everyone did it, because boy, your lives would be a lot better. It really would. And I've had the people, oh, I'm so busy. You don't understand. Yeah, I do. Yeah, the moment you wake up, there's something to do. You got kids, and I understand. I haven't got kids, but I understand. I'm not stupid. I understand. But you know, and as I always said, I challenge you. You can't find 5 minutes a day. And when I've really dug down, like, okay, you go to the bathroom, right? Not doing much else, are you, while you're there? Right? You could meditate. Right? If you excuse yourself from the office desk and go to the bathroom for 5 minutes, no one's going to say, "Where the hell are you?" Right? You could do that, and you could just have a mini meditation. It hasn't got to be long. And when you go to bed, if your mind's so busy and it's racing, well, you got time to meditate. Right? If you're so tired, your head hits the pillow, and I'm one of them, then okay, maybe that's not the right time. You find that there's 5 minutes. You're on the train coming home from work. What else are you doing? People are chilled out, listening to movies on the phone. Meditate. You haven't got to be on your own. On the train station, waiting for the train, meditate. In the taxi, waiting for the delivery, Uber, whatever it is you have delivering, whatever, delivering food. Yeah, you can't afford that. I won't waste money on it anyway. When you're cooking, while you're waiting for it to come to the bowl, meditate. Sit on the stairs, meditate. You can do it. You can find somewhere. Just take a few minutes. But I used to, great subject for this week, I used to meditate with a Buddhist society. Um, I think I've mentioned before, many years ago, 20 odd years ago, I worked at a university, a big group of colleges, part of a university. I was a security manager for them. And I have friends who lived in the residence halls over the road. And one of my classmates lived there and worked there. And speaking to one of their friends, you know, you get to know somebody, you get to know their friend. And it's a lady who's studying theology. And I said about meditation. That's right. She split up with a boyfriend. She split up with a boyfriend, and she started drinking, which was really unlike her. And I was like, "Is she okay?" And I used to check in after work and go and check her and sort of, "Are you okay?" And have a cup of tea. And she said she really enjoyed the chats. And then suddenly she was doing really well. And I said, "You're doing a lot better." She said, "Well, I meditate." I've been meditating. Oh, really? Hang on, what you know about meditation? I said, I've always wanted to know about meditation. What? How did you do it? She said, oh, yeah, I studied with Tibetan monks. I stayed in a monastery for 3 months. And I was like, what? No way. Oh my God, that's incredible. Never mentioned it. Like, tell me what about blah, blah, blah. Oh, I wish I had the opportunity. You can meditate here. Where? She said, well, just go to the Buddhist Society. I'm like, where's that? She said, well, there's one in London. I'm like, is there? And I remember, and I said, but problem is, I'm not a Buddhist. And she said, no, you haven't got to be. They accept anyone. Just go in. Just turn up. And I did. I turned up. I went there to get away from women. Within 45 minutes, I found a new girlfriend. I've been
You went there to get out from women?
to get away from women that were driving me mad.
To get away? What did we do?
Oh, we've opened up a new session. Now I know what it's going to be like next month. Okay. Well, I'm trying to remember the time. I think yeah, right. I'd split up. I had a very bad relationship. It split up, and I had really been through it. I'd really, really been through it. It was a horrendously tough time. And I'm done. I was like, I'm done with it. I'm done with it. I was like, never again. I want to get away from it. So I went there to meditate, to clear my mind and do it. Of course, I didn't want to get away from women.
And then you met someone there.
Yeah, within 45 minutes.
That's funny.
So we did the first session. Everyone was great. And then it was beautiful. You go downstairs and you put like 20 pence. I don't know what that is in cents. Yeah, look, not much. Like wait, a quarter of a dollar or something like that into into a pot for tea and biscuits. So English, so English. And we sat there in this basement, this beautiful old Victorian house. And worn out sofas and stuff. It was just lovely. And we sat there and met this and we got chatting. And there was going to be a Buddhist party that night. No kidding. Russian Buddhists were in town and was all meeting. And no crazy, funny people and all stuff, but And we had a party. It was really nice. And she said, want to come with me? And yeah, she was my girlfriend in 45 minutes. It was crazy. Well, that didn't work too well. But seriously, it was quite a nice relationship, actually. Didn't last terribly long, but it was quite a nice relationship. Had no real bad memories from that. And it was good. But that was my very first session. After that, I went there, and the beautiful thing was there were so many different types of meditation. But what I just got, mostly, if I'm really honest at that time, was the peace and quiet, because I had a mobile phone that was going 14 hours a day, every day. There was no such thing really as time off, particularly. It was just insane. And when I went there, my then boss, because I worked for a company then, my then boss, I said, can you handle the phones for a couple of hours? Why? Okay. And I had permission to turn my phone off. Oh, I can't tell you how good that felt. I can't tell you. I really can't tell you how good that felt. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. That in itself was so therapeutic. And you sat there in silence on a cushion, which I found a little bit uncomfortable at first. It was, and in a beautiful surroundings, while we had a lecture about Buddhism meditation. And then we went into meditation. And we'd do that for quite a while. Bong, hear the bell, the bowl being chimed, which was unbelievable. Then we go downstairs and had tea and biscuits and chat.
Awesome.
That was lovely. And then we go upstairs and, again, we do another meditation. And it was so unlike the rest of my life. It was like a life out of my life. And it was just that beautiful thing each week. And I loved going there. I got very melancholy about it a couple of months ago and looked it up online and saw the picture of the building. And I'm like, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back and say, sorry, I've not been around for a bit. I've been a bit busy.
Yeah.
It's been about 23 years. But it's great. It was great. And a colleague of mine the other day, I was speaking to online, who I study human behavior with. He's just done another degree in Chinese medicine, etc., and including very, very deep meditation, many types, and Buddhist Buddhist meditation. He's not a Buddhist, but he's studied Buddhist meditation so many types. And I was like, oh my God, this is interesting. I had that mini conversation like I've just had here about that. And he was knowing so many types. So I'm going to dive into him and get him to take us through a few of them maybe. And it would be good. So yeah, I mean, it's the easiest thing. It's the easiest thing for people to do out there. For most people, it's the easiest, simplest, most amenable thing to do. You haven't got to go somewhere to meditate. You can do it pretty much where you are. It doesn't take long. It does take a little practice. Yeah. So that's why I asked some of the people that don't like it, is it because they found it difficult? Because if so, yeah, some people do find it hard to meditate, first of all, to go into mindfulness. But it is a practice. It is a practice. So it's about surrendering, letting go. And that's perhaps why you do it in the first place. I understand it's a chicken or the egg to some extent, but you've got to just take faith and invest. Invest 5 minutes into it. Just invest. And for those 5 minutes, allow yourself, give yourself permission to let go. Just let go and do it. Just 5 minutes. That's all you've got to do every day and build the momentum. And I think the benefits of it are astounding. What about you, Nonsa? Have you had people who don't like it, won't do it, can't stand it, reject it?
I think that most people they don't know the benefits of meditation, and that's why people don't do it. Because if they knew the benefits, like a Grant story, he was getting away from us women, and then he ended up with the one. That is a funny story.
Isn't it, right? I guess it's one of our stories you never. And by the way, ladies, no, I don't dislike women, not at all. That's not. Don't.
I think
What the
if
hell's
you've
wrong
been
with that?
hurt, I know where you come. I know where I can feel where you come from, Grant. If you've been hurt, you have this feeling that I don't really want to be in a relationship, but because you're hurting that moment, so you had the right to feel that way. But
Yeah.
I'm glad that within 45 minutes,
Yeah.
things changed. I think we need to like promote mindfulness, because people don't understand the benefits. It just help when you're stressed, when like children nowadays, there's so much pressure in this world. It does help. It helps a lot. I do meditation, but through prayer. I'm doing it now. I've started to do it. I'm doing it for 21 days. Like I do it. It didn't work out yesterday. I managed to do 2 hours. But I think I fell asleep with the third hour. I found myself getting up at 7 a.m. I was meant to go up to 4 a.m. I fell asleep. I remember doing 2 hours. I was still awake. But the other hour, I don't remember what happened.
So to get this clear, you're praying constantly?
Yeah, I'm meditating on my soul and everyone that I know. So if you start seeing your attitude change, it's Nomsa.
Wow. So listen, guys, if if you're gonna listen to Nomsa, she's doing it for hours and hours on end. So if Nomsa can do it for hours on end, you can do 5 minutes. You can do 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'm doing it at nighttime, like for cleansing my soul and everyone around me, like making sure they're bringing their intelligence out and things like that. But I'm not doing it on my own. There's other people that are doing it as well. I think it's lots of us, more than 100 people who are doing it. So if you start seeing your attitude and you start like saying, okay, I don't like writing, but I now like writing. Say, Nomsa, what's going on? Just don't be surprised, Grant. Nomsa is summoning you to your intelligent, whatever is your creator created you to become, that you've neglected that talent. Nomsa is asking that talent to come to pass. Yeah, meditating is good. I like, Grant, that you share the story of having that disappointment, and then you go and do the meditation, and then like your life falls, because it's a heart. Like when you have a broken heart, it disconnect everything, get disconnected from your body. And you're like, I don't, is there a point really to fall in love? And then once you work on your healing, and then you're like, okay, I'm loving this. It's okay for me to love again. Yeah, so that's why we need more teachers like Amanda who understand the mindfulness. I wish I had the teachers like you when I was growing up
Yeah.
that can, yeah. Because you'll be surprised one person that enters your life, how much they can change your life. So, yeah,
Yeah,
it's very, very important.
there's definitely like positive teachers that I remember and ones that I remember just despising, but I think the ones that you despise also help you in some ways because it allows you to like deal with difficult bosses or other difficult people that show up in your life, right? So I see value in like the really good teachers and also the ones that you really struggle with because it gives you other tools to be able to navigate difficult people. Um, the one thing I wanted to say about meditation is one of the things that I used to do was I would listen to a meditation every single night before I went to sleep. And it was like a Louise Hay's sleep meditation. And then in the mornings, I would listen to her morning meditation, like basically like almost religiously for like probably almost like 2 or 3 years while I was going through my divorce and trying to heal from that. And it was really, really positive to listen to those every day. There was one too that I remember I went to a retreat called the Hoffman Institute. And during that retreat or after that retreat, one of the things that I did was there was meditations that you could do. Like this was when you had to like get them on CDs. This is how long ago it was. And so they gave you like the set of CDs to like listen to after being at the retreat. And there was one that you could listen to while you were driving. And I was living at my aunt's farm at the time because we were building my house and I was like getting divorced. And it was a 35-minute drive from my aunt's farm into work every day. And so I would listen to that meditation, the one that you could listen to while driving every day on my way to work and every day on my way home, just like constantly trying to like rewire my brain into feeling more self-confident and positive and heal. And I feel like those meditations at that time were like really, really valuable because it like dug into my subconscious mind by listening to them so many times. And it was like the exact same one every single day. Every single day I was listening to the same night meditation as I go to sleep and the same morning meditation when I wake up. And then the same one as I drove to work and back every single day. And it really, really like dug into what I was trying to create for myself. And so I think sometimes too, when I get into dark places like that, still I'm like, oh yeah, okay, start listening to a guided meditation every single night. Cause I do better with guided meditations than I do with just like sitting there. And I don't know about you, and I know that like people who are really good meditators are the ones that would be like, well, it's not real meditation if you're doing a guided meditation. I'm like, well, but that's what works for me. So sometimes it is just like do what works for you. And Nomdai, like how you said that you fall asleep, because like there was ones that I would like that sleep one was you were meant to fall asleep. And 90% of the time I'd never get to the end of the sleep meditation, but I'd be like, it's going into my subconscious mind, right? Somehow while I'm sleeping, just hearing these like things over and over again are going to help rewire my brain subconsciously. And so when I look back onto like who I was then to who I am now, I think that those meditations had a huge impact on just like building my self-confidence back up after being married to a narcissist.
Do it. Do it. Yeah. So what's some of the best uses you found and great stories with meditation when it comes to young minds, when it comes to techniques for young minds? And I love what you were showing earlier with breathe in. Was it breathe in, breathe out? Was that right? Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe. Very, very nice. But when you do it for kids, what kind of benefits have you found that they've got from this, Amanda?
It really just like opens their eyes so like I can self-regulate, right? I don't need to go to someone else to like get them to help me regulate. I can self-regulate myself. And I know like last year, one of the things that I was constantly, not constantly, but like a number of times talking with some of my boys about was they would get into fights on the soccer field. It's called football where you are, but they would get into fights like at recess. And I was like, you guys, you have to learn how to control your tempers now in elementary school, because if you don't, when you're an adult like me and you go and play soccer, because I still play soccer, football, they if you get into a fist fight on the field, you'll get a red card and you'll get fined. And there are people on my soccer team who have been fined before because I play on a co-ed team for losing their temper and getting into like a disagreement with the ref. And so then you're fine. I think it's like $100 or something like that. Like it's not a huge amount, but it's still significant that like I could have spent that $100 on something a lot better. But like those sort of things, I'm like, this is exactly where you need to learn how to self-regulate and learn when you need to just walk away. Because when you become an adult, you won't have that grace. It will be there are like bigger consequences than just having to talk to the teacher or having to tell your parents or having to go talk to the principal because you pushed somebody over because you were mad that they slid into you playing soccer or football for you guys. But yeah, so that was one of the things where I'm like, okay, what can you do when you're feeling so bottled up and so angry in that moment that you're going to like do that? What could you do? Could you walk away? Could you breathe? Could you just like shake it out, right? Like they're like shake it out. Like though that's one of the things that even animals do when like a
Yeah.
gazelle is chased by a tiger after they've escaped, their body does this like shake out thing, which is like something that we need to do too when our anxiety and our stress fight or flight hormones are up. That our body needs to get rid of that extra energy, and like shaking it out is one of the things that we can do. And not very many people know that, and there's research on that on how animals just like us, we need
Yep.
to like get that out of ourselves. And for different kids there's different things that work. I know for my daughter, like I had bought this like anxiety like workbook for her, and it had like all of these like different activities that she could do, like drawing or journaling, or like each day was like a different thing, and she'd like flip through the book and decide whatever it was that she wanted. And at a point when she was really struggling, that was something that really helped her. And I know too, like I've been given like lists of things of mindfulness strategies, but really it's like leading a horse to water. You can't make it drink. The only person that can really truly benefit from mindfulness is if you're choosing to actually use the tools. Because I remember one time she's like, you haven't done anything for me to help me with this. And I was like, literally, I have. There's all of these strategies that I've told you about, all of these like specialists, like things that I've like read and done, but I can't do it for you. Right? I can't do it for you. You have to actually use the tools that I've given you. And if you're not choosing not to use the tools, then there's nothing that I can do. And that was a big aha moment, I think, for her and for any child. Like your parent can't do it for you. They can't help you with mindful. They can give you all the tools, but unless you're going to actually go and practice the mindfulness techniques, it's like physio, right? If I go to physio once every 3 weeks and they give me these exercises, that's great. Unless I actually do the exercises, it's not going to help me. And I literally went to the physio because I've been struggling. I was in a car accident and my back has been really sore for the last 2 years. And I've been going to physio like religiously for 2 years. And I'm now at a physio specialist, and she gave me some exercises and I did them every single day. And then I went back and she was like, wow, like you improved so much. She's like, you wouldn't believe how many people come here, get the exercises, and then don't do them at all.
Really?
and then just come back and they're like, oh, it's not working. I'm like, well, of course it's not working. You're not doing the exercises. It's like when people are like, oh, the mindfulness isn't working. I was like, are you doing it every day? Are you doing it every day? You could practice a mindfulness technique by just pouring yourself a bath and lighting a candle and like relaxing with my daughter and I made bath bombs the other night because it's starting to get cold in Canada. Don't know if you know that, but it's cold here.
Right.
Felt like winter yesterday or on Sunday. But because it's starting to get cold, I was like, oh, we need some bath bombs. So we like made bath bombs the other day, which really in itself is like a really calming, like mindful practice to just like make something, right? That's why people bake and cook, is because it can be a mindfulness practice, but when you're intentional about it. And I know even for myself, I don't really like cooking at all, but if I have time, then it's something that I really quite enjoy because it's like almost like healing to just like cook a really healthy, wholesome meal and spend that time to make sure that I'm going to like have healthy meals for the whole week. And so I think even we can tie that into like so many other areas of our lives too if we're mindful about them. Like being back at work now after being off all summer, I've been really mindful of like, okay, I'm going to make muffins for the week so that Ella has like quick, easy things to put in her lunch. I'm going to also make granola bars and and like we're so busy. Like I'm hiking on the weekends. We're busy doing other things, going to yoga, going to the gym, doing a bunch of other things, but then I intentionally set aside time to make sure that I'm going to like set myself up for success. So I think with so many mindfulness techniques, it's really being intentional about setting yourself up for success so that in a moment of like stress and anxiety, you have those tools that you're already like setting yourself up for success. What do you think?
Nonsense. Oh,
I think it's very, very important to actually, like, I like Amanda when you say, as a parent, we can help our children, but we can set up the tools for them to use mindfulness, but we can't physically help them to actually take action. They have to decide whether they want to do it. And that's when, like at home, when you have parents, if they motivate you, and then you go to school, and the school they help you to actually do a mindfulness exercises and stuff. So in that way, it helps. But unfortunately, some of our children they don't do them. I'm lucky because my daughter does loads of exercises. Um, she gets it from school anyway. Private school, you don't have a choice.
true, true.
You can't say you can't say I can't do this. It's under the curriculum that you have to do certain things, certain standard in order for you to stay there. So you can't refuse. But some people they don't have that opportunity to go to those kind of schools. But what I like now, like where I live, I can see the government schools as well. They're promoting loads of sports and stuff, encouraging children to get involved. If they're not involved in like sports, some of them they music they bring out different things which before they've never really used to do it. When my daughter started, you have to pay to do things. But now the school, there are some activities where you pay. There are some activities that children can do it for free. Parents, those who can afford even instrument as well, they give children that opportunity, which is good. It means the world is changing.
True.
Things are changing.
That's one of the things I've been reading this book called Spark, the revolutionary new science of exercise in the brain. And it's how to supercharge your mental circuits to beat stress, sharpen your thinking, and lift your mood and boost your memory and much, much more. And a lot of it talks about how exercise can help children. And then also it talks about how exercise can actually help with addictions and anxiety and depression as well. And so I think like what you were saying, Gnomes, about exercise, that like start there. Start there because there's so many benefits to it. And one of the things in the book with kids, the part of that book that talked about children is so often like as adults, many people don't play team sports. So actually after 22, the number of adults that play team sports like cuts off significantly, and that most of our gym time is focused on like team sports. And then this one school focused more on just individual wellness and exercises that you can do as an individual. And they actually saw their students getting way better academically and having better like BMIs and everything like that. And it was because they were focusing on just individual best rather than like competing against each other. And they'd given each of the kids what are they called, the watches, what the Fitbits, and it tracked all of it to see how they were improving. And they found too that when you focused on wellness and wellness exercises that kids can do as individuals, it actually like improved their chances of continuing it throughout their lives. And I thought that was really, really significant. And I think that we should sometimes maybe focus more on like individual bests rather than like competing at schools. And that's what that research came out with, which I thought was really, really interesting.
That is a good point. That is a very good point, actually. So what did you glean from that? What did you glean from what they said?
I just was it made me think about like when kids, and they talked about one of the things was they they were looking at this child who like normally they wouldn't think was like trying very hard, and then they looked at the Fitbit data and found out that that kid was like actually at her highest heart rate, like target heart rate range for like the most amount of time. But watching that kid like do the lap or whatever it was that she was doing, you wouldn't think like that they were trying very hard at all. And that kid actually was trying harder than everybody else in the entire class, but that
Really?
data Fitbit gave them that information. And so that's when they started to really just focus on individual like bests based on the data from the Fitbits. And it was like, it was really fascinating. It's a really good book. I would suggest it for anybody, especially if somebody knows people with addictions, because there's a big section on addictions too, and the benefits of exercise for overcoming addictions.
That's fantastic. By the way, you were talking earlier about shaking it out. Very, very important. Yeah, animals used to do this years ago. We've apparently we think we used to do it, and over the millions of years we phased it out into our behavior. Maybe through embarrassment, maybe through simple as that. Very important thing to do. Certain martial artists, I believe in Russia, or bodyguards at a very high level, they can do it. If they get hit, they can shake the trauma out. Dr. David Baselli did an awful lot of research on that and has a mechanism known as TRE, trauma release exercise, which walks you through that. And obviously, you get trained people to practice it from you. I'm actually trained in that. Into a variant of that, and it's it's incredibly powerful, and it's it can release a lot of traumas for people, etc., who've had it, whether it be PTSD. This could come from military veterans, trauma, sexual trauma, etc. Very, very powerful. Very, very powerful. So, yeah, take a look at that. Take a look at it. Very powerful thing and something to do. In fact, someone messaged me today, and I know this person does it pretty much every day. They spend a lot of time doing it. Powerful stuff. Really, really great. So, yeah, check that one out. Check that one out. Yeah, cool. Nomsa.
Amanda, what have you noticed about Zoom names?
Pardon?
What have you noticed about Zoom names?
Zoom
You seen, yeah, Zoom names. Have you seen our names?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Have you
Names on
seen
Zoom?
our names on Zoom?
Okay.
Um,
Look at Grant.
Yeah,
It's not
I
the
know
first
that
time.
I know that he's got his doctorate now. We talked about it before.
I know, but he didn't change it before.
Yeah, I'm sure I put it on there once. I thought I had. Yeah,
Yeah, he has changed it
yeah,
before. I noticed
yeah.
I've
that.
not seen it. It's my first
I
time
Just
don't
see.
seeing
know how
All
you
right.
know.
Okay. All right.
How does this relate to our topic?
It's
So confused.
mindfulness. It's mindfulness.
There you go.
Noticing what's around you.
Yeah.
Noticing.
Yeah, look
Yeah.
around.
Look around.
One
Look
of the other
around.
things one of the other strategies that I forgot to mention that we can do with mindfulness with children is art. And that's one of the things
Oh,
I notice as a teacher is that when we do art and we really focus on just like being mindful about whatever it is that we're doing,
yeah.
the class just like calms. Like it's almost like this like energy completely shifts in the room. And it is like unbelievable when you set it up in a way where you're like, okay, we're using the like creative side of our brain right now. It's actually, we don't need the talking side of our brain because the talking side of our brain is the opposite of the creative side of our brain. And when we just like settle into this creative zone, it actually like allows us just to shift because our brain is really focusing on just being creative right now. And the kids, like their energy just calms, especially if you've had like a really rough day. It can really just like shift the energy of the kids completely. And so sometimes I think if we really set up intentional art projects, that it can really, really help kids with mindfulness. And I know sometimes kids just go home and they create too, because that's their like outlet of creativity and how to reset and self-regulate. And I know for some students that that's a really great tool as well. It might not work for everybody because there are kids that really hate art, but it does definitely work for a number of children, and it works for adults too. We just forget about that creative side of ourselves sometimes, and we're set on like my artwork has to be perfect. Well, it doesn't. It can just be a creative expression that you just like enjoy in that moment.
Good point. Really, really good point. Art is a beautiful thing, and you took me back there when you said that about creating the nice calm in the classroom. I went, oh yeah, I remembered being that and that lovely serene sort of thought when you're doing art. It's true. And for therapy, um, yeah, my nephew, who is autistic, was always fairly good at art, and he's just taken it up again, his art stuff, because he's lost his mother recently. And so to get his mind focused, I asked him to start doing art again, and he did. And he sits around just doing it, and it's a good way to channel his mind. Very thoughtful thing to do for him, and he's good at it, and it helps to channel your emotions. Very good thing. But back to those school days when I did art at school, and I did like it a lot. It was a beautiful moment, and I thought, yeah, that was it. If I was ever going to be a school teacher, I think I'd go for art. That would be the one because at least the kids are in peace and quiet most of the time, right?
It can be chaos with paint, but
Yeah, there is that. Yeah, that
but usually if you set it up right, they can be very, very intentional and mindful in
Did you guys check the time? It's 5 minutes past.
I need to get going.
Amanda needs to go. Any words of encouragement, guys?
For whatever it is that you're doing, if you want to practice mindfulness techniques, it really is, all of the tools or can find all of the tools online. It's about actually intentionally practicing them each and every day, because in order to get better at something, you have to practice. And so you can say, well, I know all of these tools, but like, are you doing them? And
yeah.
doing them daily? Because just like with physio, like I talked about earlier, it has to be something that you're doing every day, or otherwise you're not going to see the results that you want. So that's what I'll leave you with.
Very good point. Very good point,
Hi,
Amanda.
everyone on LinkedIn. Sorry, I didn't mean to ignore you guys. I just
Ah,
forgot to open my app on LinkedIn. So thank you so much for your wonderful comments. Grant, sorry I interrupted you.
That's all right. That's all right. Thanks, Nomsa. And yeah, I'm great. I'm glad you sort of people linked in there. And your comments are so important. And don't forget, if you've got any questions, questions, always put them out there, and we can try to answer these live for you. Amanda, yeah, I love that point you made there. Really, really good. And remember, when it comes to mindfulness, it is your mind, and you do own your mind. So try to take control of your mind, and this allows you to take control of your mind. But you do have to make the first move. You do have to just set up a bit of time, look at that diary, think where you can grab 5 minutes, and I'm sure you can, and just dedicate that time to mindfulness and surrender to the process and enjoy it, because it builds. And the more it builds, the more intense it gets. Maybe intense isn't quite the right word, but the more fulfilling it becomes, and you really get some great benefits from it. Don't doubt it, just try it and see how it goes. Don't expect great results, first of all. It is a muscle, if you will, it does expand. You need to make the first move. And so it's just waiting for you. Don't hang about, just do it right now, would be my advice. Nomsa, over to you.
Thank you so much, Grant and Amanda. It does help. As long as you keep repetition, there's power in repetition. So just keep repeating it at the same time. And also, I think what works is if you pick that time where you just give yourself 5 minutes, or if you want to increase it to 10 minutes or 20 minutes, and you just don't push yourself too much. Take the TV time off your schedule and put mindfulness in there. It does work, guys. I use Ngozi Talk Show actually for my lunch break. I don't have a lunch break. So Ngozi Talk Shows is my lunch break. And I don't watch TV as well. So it does help when you actually look at the things, how you can implement. And if you're watching us from YouTube, guys, please do subscribe to our channel. If you're watching us on LinkedIn, please do share our post. And also, if you're watching us on Facebook, please do share, join the group. We have Unique Billionaire Mindset Group and Ngozi Talk Shows. Live with grace, everyone, and God bless.
Take care.